record on the session. Hi everyone, this is Jerry Penny from All for One and One for All, and today we have a presentation from Harsha. Expect the unexpected. So his unexpectedness today is that he's used the colour pink. So systems for buffering up. Tell us, Harsha, what's that all about?
Well, look, it's an idea that came to me while I was on holiday in Christmas/New Year, this 2019, 2020. And so I thought, well, at that point in time, I didn't actually think I was going to do a webinar as such, but I had an idea. Mm-hmm. And things kind of came together. Well, you see how it came together, but it's not something I planned.
Okay, tell us more.
Okay, all right, let's get into it. The hot pink, by the way, was the first color that was on the banner on Canva, and I thought, oh, normally I wouldn't go with it. I'm just got to be more accepting of bright colors, so that's why I went with it.
Very good.
Right, so expect the unexpected. Let's get on to the next slide. It won't go, Jerry. What's going on?
No, don't ask me, mate.
Okay.
There we are. No.
All right. I think let's just keep it in that view if
that's fine.
If everyone's happy with that.
Yeah.
So a little bit about me. If you've seen me do a webinar, you probably would have seen this slide before. Originally from Sri Lanka, grew up in Perth, currently live in Canberra, worked in a number of different industries, mainly because I get bored very easily. I move from job to job. So I haven't had a career as per se, but I've had a career in careers, which I think has given me a bit of experience in how systems work in those different industries. So let's go on to what we will discuss today. Systems. So a quick overview of what a NOS and a POS is. We'll get into that soon. So I'll keep you wondering, which is always exciting. What's he talking about? All these acronyms. Unexpected situations. How do we define that? How to prepare, what to do, and knowing when to go live with your plan that you come up with. So before we do that, however, what are some systems? So around us, we see a number of different systems, in our lives. And you've seen the first presentation that I did on systems. Jerry, I'm going to have to ask you to share that at some point with the All for One community, because Alistair did share a copy with me, but it's somewhere on one of the multiple hard drives I've got.
Yeah, I've got the YouTube link ready to go, so I can share it in the group tonight.
Oh, awesome. So I can refer to that. So there will be a kind of a basics of defining systems and what a NOS and a POS is in that. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in this one. Mm-hmm. However, we've got different types of systems, such as financial, which include banking, budgeting, debt management, etc. Well-being systems. When I say a system, it's not necessarily something automated. It could be something that you do on a regular basis. So it might be the exercise routine you have. That's a system in itself. It keeps your body going, right?
Is it a system by not going?
So that will be a NOS, a negative.
Yes,
a negative
that's right.
System. We've got marketing systems, lead generation, relationship management, and so forth. So the number of systems in our lives that we utilize are probably endless. However, I define them as two main categories. They are negative outcome systems and positive outcome systems. There are also a situation where there is no system being utilized, which can result in problems as well.
Yeah.
I've only kind of recently discovered that. So we'll go into more detail in that soon. So a negative outcome system is a system that outputs or results in a consequence that does not provide a net benefit to your life or business. So that's a whole lot of words, but it basically means it gives you a really bad result. A positive outcome system, what do you think that might be, Jerry?
A system that has positive outcomes.
Positive outcomes, so it gives you a net benefit. So there might be a little bit of, setting up involved, which may cost you some resources initially, but in the kind of grand scheme and time frame, it actually results in something positive in your life or business. Okay. And obviously the differences are, with a negative output system or a positive output system, you're more reactive in terms of when things go wrong with a negative output system. Whereas with a POS, you're more proactive and you're left feeling that you're more in control. You are more in control. So it's basically the difference there.
Yep. And
the world's on your side. If you believe in all the kind of the hokey pokey, the universe and all that, which I do. So there's 4 concepts I'd like to introduce at this stage that will help us to kind of understand things a bit better when we move forward. One thing is patterns. So a pattern is something that you see it repeat, and the time frame might be a short time frame, like a week, a month, a year, or it could be a longer time frame, like 10 years or 15 years. We've seen recently certain things happening around Australia, and they happen probably 10, 15, 20 years apart, but they do happen, such as the bushfires, right? Yeah. So whether we could have been prepared or not is another question, but we do see patterns around us, and I think it's important that, especially now as things are speeding up more and more around us, that we kind of take a bit of a breath and start to notice these things. And most of us are just busy, very busy, caught up in our daily lives. Just, get home, you got to pay the bills, you got to do this, you got to do that, and start all over again. But if we don't kind of take a step to the side and look around and start noticing things, then that's when we don't have the time to put those systems in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a habit. How would you define a habit, Jerry?
Something that you do without thinking about.
Yep.
And obviously you can have good or bad habits. Everyone's got their different opinion on how long they take to break and create and form and everything like that.
Yep.
Some people say 21 days, some people say 66 days. Who knows what it is? But it's usually something that you can't control, for the bad habits especially.
Yep.
And you just do it on autopilot.
Yep. Excellent. So I couldn't have given a better definition myself. So basically, it's subconscious. You're on autopilot. So that's an important concept to understand. The next concept is feedback. So when you do something, you get a response. Taking note of what that response and adjusting your actions to kind of better create a system that you're trying to create. And then finally, experimentation. There's got to be some level of courage to just go and try things and see what happens. Sometimes it may not work the way you put a system together, but you've got to just go and do it and then adapt, taking that feedback on board. Okay, so let's work through an example. We were talking about expect the unexpected, and I'm going to share an experience that I had in the Christmas holidays, which was the bushfire emergency. And so we were on holiday And the problem, I've defined the problem here as much as I can remember. So the town that you're in is caught up in the bushfires. However, you're not in any imminent danger. The electricity is lost to the town, so there's no electricity. Shops are open, but trading only on a cash basis. The petrol runs out. Roads are open, however, can close at any time, and they did, and then they open, and then they close. You have $20 cash on hand, half a tank of petrol, and to get back to Canberra, it's about 350 k's or a 3.5 hour to 5 hour drive, depending on traffic. And to top it all off, you're with your family, with the kids. So this is the example we're going to work through. And I'm going to stop this share, Jerry, just for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to share a little video I actually created in the moment, which might explain it a little bit better.
Okay.
Are you open to that?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So how I do that through Zoom, and people watching on Facebook won't be able to see it unless we share the recording at a later point.
So you have to share your internet browser, probably.
Oh, here we go. QuickTime Player.
Yep.
So can you see that?
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have to put up with my beard as well. So
Your holiday beard.
my holiday beard.
Your holiday hair.
Holiday hair, holiday glasses, and holiday dress up. All right. I'll turn the volume down because I think this video is a little bit loud. All right. So we are on... Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's all good.
We're on Christmas New Year holiday in 2019, and it's not as I expected. You know, we went camping for the first time with the family, and what we thought was going to be quite a relaxing experience turned out to be one of using our minds to ration food, figuring out how we're going to make the petrol last for the trip, how are we going to buy enough food with $40 for a week, because all the power to the stores have gone down, and there's the groceries are running out of the supermarkets because there's fires right along the coastline. So it's been a very interesting
And my dad's acting like he's on a news goddamn station.
Just ignore that bit. And dealing with two crazy kids. So it's been a very interesting experience. I have to say, we're only halfway through it because there's probably going to be about another week. We've got about a week.
Because the roads are blocked down and we're all going to die.
Okay, just don't listen to that. Positive thinking, please. So what I was trying to say was, there's about a week's worth of food we've rationed out. The roads are all blocked, like Covey said. And no, we're all going to be fine. We're just getting through it day by day. There's no electricity to the site. Hot water, kiss that goodbye. Food, I think the biggest thing is food, because what do you buy it with when all the electronics are down, where there's no ATMs, there's no electronic payments, and you're left with cash? How many of us actually carry cash with us? I certainly did not. I used to carry a lot of cash in my wallet. I didn't even have $5 note in it this time. So I had to rely on people around us. Like Cubby luckily had about $18 worth of cash.
Yeah, and we bought nappies with it. They're wasting it.
Yeah, we bought nappies. Well, you need some essentials. So, anyway, I will give you another update
And
as we go.
He's got too much beer. He can sell that.
Okay, we can sell some gear as well. Right, so you'll get another update soon. Okay. How do I stop that share? So I couldn't edit those bits out, so I thought I might just leave them in there because it was quite interesting. But having looked back at that and looking at myself, I think I was quite stressed, to say the least.
Well,
because
it makes you think that people will be differently prepared when they go away on holidays these days. Now, from now on, you would think. Or they'll probably forget all about it and never think it's going to happen to them. Yeah.
I think we get complacent, and that's the problem. And I certainly did get complacent. In that example, I probably there's a bit of exaggeration there. I did have petrol because I went and actually pumped it up that night after that video, or the night before that video. And fortunately, that was before the the electronic funds access cut out. So we had a full tank of petrol to get back to Canberra. But had we not had that, we would have been stuck there, I think. So the question is, how could we, or I, or my family, have prepared for the unexpected? So did we have the basics in place? So cash, we had none. So, next time I go on holiday, I'd probably, strap myself some cash and go. And am I being too cautious here? But I think once you go through an experience, it's not about fear. It's more about being practical. It's more about going, well, I don't actually want to go through all that stress. I'm on holiday. I want to relax, right? And if things do go wrong, you can. So there were a lot of people at that campsite who were fully prepared. They had caravans with, solar power, and they could probably stay there for the next 6 months without any outside help. And I thought that's very interesting, but they've been doing it for a number of years. Food, we were partially prepared for food. We had about 1 week's worth of food for 2 adults and 2 children. However, the only problem there was most of the food that we got access to at that point were not allergy free, and some members of my family can't eat certain types of food, and if they do, they get sick. So it was kind of like, well, if it came to the point we had to eat, they had to eat that. So being prepared with food. Water, we had about 15 to 20 litres of water. That was a combination of bottled water and a big tub that I took with us. Air masks, nope. I hadn't even thought about that. Would we have to think about oxygen in the future? I don't know. What do you think, Jerry?
Oh, who knows? Can I ask, because bushfires had been going in New South Wales already for 2 months or so,
Yep.
Did you ever think that there may be a threat?
Not the route that we went through. So it was going on north, north of that area. It was quite well, it wasn't far away, but it wasn't close enough to kind of affect it, we thought. But we went through the south route to get to where we went to, which is Turos Heads, and that was through Bega.
Yeah.
At that point, there was no problems, but both the routes got cut off to get back to Canberra. So that was interesting as well. So would we go again in the future when in a situation like that? Probably not. You think very carefully. Fuel, no. Have I invested in some jerry cans? Since coming back? Yes. Shelter, camping gear, yes. We were prepared with that. Interesting thing was mobile phones, utterly useless once the towers go down. So we had no communication for about 2 days with the outside world. However, I did get a text from the bank. I don't know how that got through, saying, "Would you like some help?" And I managed to even get get in contact with them, and they said they don't have any mobile lenders or mobile agents. I said, well, why are you sending me texts? But that's another story, I think. Okay, so that's how I could have been prepared. So let's go into something that you could potentially do based on an experience like that, or based on your life at the moment. So the things you can ask yourself are the following questions. What are the basics that I need, that my family needs to function as a human? What are the basics that my business and staff need to function to provide my customers with a service? Now, these basics are things that will keep you going. It's not necessarily if there's a disaster, you'll be able to, function. It's more about buying time. It's more about business continuity or personal continuity, if you want to call it, or, just continuing to function till you figure things out. So start to think in those lines. So some of the basics might be food, water, shelter. Anything else come to mind, Jerry?
Food, water, shelter, just, hygienic, purposes that you can wash yourself and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. So water. I'd probably even go as far as saying real cash or something to trade with. Doesn't necessarily mean cash, but
I bet there was a bit of old-fashioned bartering going on in these situations.
Well, it's interesting how shops react. Even a supermarket reacts when they're not able to take funds, and you'd expect them to kind of be a little bit more flexible, but they're not. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And if you don't have something to trade with, you've got to understand they're also a business. They've probably got a family, so they're probably scared as well. I don't know, but this is what happens when things go wrong. People don't know how to react. So I'd say also looking around the world, the way things are happening in various countries, various economies, cash running out, people in Greece kind of standing outside tellers trying to get some cash. It's probably a good idea to have a little bit on hand that you don't have to kind of run off to the bank and go, how am I going to get through if something happens? So
even straight after the bushfires, I went and stocked up on milk. I thought for some reason that we'd be out of fresh milk in a couple of weeks, but we never were.
Yep. We
Didn't...
bought a heap of bottled water in Canberra because we got back to Canberra and it's like smoke everywhere. And I thought, well, this place is going to go up in smoke as well. So,
yeah.
But the balance here is not to really do it out of fear, more on a practical sense, So, so basically you're buying time and you're buying continuity to figure things out. Regular actions to take. So create the habits, accumulate, build resources. So family and personal family basics, including food, water, fuel, trading currency. It could be money or something else like a precious metal. I think in the future, possibly air might become something of a resource. The way things are going, the way the planet's being polluted and so forth. Hopefully it won't be in the short term, but who knows? Communications. I'd also rethink mobiles. I don't know. After that experience, I don't know if there's other ways to communicate, but yeah. Business basics. So if you run a business, some of the shops where we were without generators, some had generators, so they could continue to operate. Again, a trading currency of some sort. If the electronic transactions go down, are you as a business prepared to take I don't know if you're familiar with the old swipe machines for the credit cards.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can we still use those? I don't know. Is that possible?
Probably.
Because I know they got rid of signatures.
As long as your credit card has, as long as your card has that, the imprinted numbers. Some don't these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got a feeling a lot of businesses still do have them as a backup. They're meant to.
Yeah.
So it surprised me that, or maybe they don't at all these days, but and whether they had the little slips of paper and everything like that. But they used to have them as a backup, but whether or not the shops would do it to process them, who knows?
Yeah. And at one point in time, that's all there was, right? We had to. I remember working in a supermarket. You had to get this machine out, and sometimes it wouldn't work, and you had to redo it, and the customer would get upset, and then you'd have to rip that piece of paper up in front of them, and so forth. But just having alternative methods to transact with your customers is important, I think.
Maybe it's something we should say to the banks. You've got to make sure that, outlets have got these card processing things.
Yes.
Too bad if their shop goes up in flames, they lose it all.
Yeah. And another thing I was thinking, as a supermarket, what better marketing could you do than to help people when they're in trouble?
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, this business did not understand that. So,
yeah.
So even if you have to write that off, whatever the goods were, spending $5,000 on an ad campaign versus $5,000 helping a whole lot of people with food. I don't know. I can kind of see the benefit of one drastically more.
Yeah.
So alternative premises, security for the staff, online, transactions. Again, if the internet's down, well, that's not going to really work. The next thing I would do, once you kind of figure out what you need, is to prioritize the essentials and start building those things up first. So you might say, I usually put in X dollars a week into my savings account. You might go, well, I might take Y dollars and put that in my security box at home. And then you just build up that cash rather than having to do a whole lot of cash in one go. There's a little slide I made, and I'm happy to share that if anyone's interested, which kind of goes into how you categorize different things. How do you prioritize different things? So there's two columns. There's two axes. People watching the webinar will be able to see it. And there's, on one axis, it's important, and at the bottom end, it's not important. And on the x-axis, it's urgent and not urgent. Yep. So you can kind of classify things as urgent, important, not urgent, important, then urgent, not important, and not urgent, not important. Obviously, you wouldn't really focus on the things on the far right-hand corner because it's not really going to be that beneficial to you.
Yep.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. So we've gone into the negative and positive systems, the concepts of patterns, habits, feedback, and experimentations, the holiday example that I experienced, and actions and habits you can create to kind of build your systems and prioritize what needs to be done. I guess I wanted to really share this experience because I thought, well, whatever people take away, if there's one thing is just to be prepared for things that might happen out of the ordinary. And you can actually be prepared. You can put a few things in place. Just got to think outside the box of where you're currently kind of living. So Thanks everyone for joining
yeah.
me.
Thank you, Harsha. Ross, have you got any comments or questions tonight? He's hiding in the background. Here he is.
Yeah, Harsha, that would have been a frightening situation to be in. I know that we pulled the plug on our holiday looking at the conditions, and we kept an eye on it because we had family that were in Narooma and in Canberra.
Yep.
And in Narooma got evacuated, so they had to leave there.
Yeah.
And Canberra was, you're talking about, oxygen or ability to be able to breathe being potentially being an issue there. I know that they were struggling to breathe, and like everybody else in Canberra at the time.
Yep. So
just the smoke was so bad.
Yeah. So we were actually in Turos Heads, but when we came back to Canberra, it was the air quality was like 20 times worse, which was interesting because Turos Heads was kind of on the beach. So I don't know if that made any difference or not.
Yeah, I think Canberra's kind of almost like it's in a bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a good chance that that the smoke was getting caught in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It was kind of a surreal experience because we were in a really beautiful spot, Turos Heads, if you've ever been there, but it's right on the beach. However, all these things, but you could feel the energy of people panicking, and we just went to the beach. We kind of let that stress out in the water, try not to take that on board. So
well, I'm super glad that you came through it okay.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you.
And it's just interesting how you thought, wow, I could make a bit of a webinar about this, just really thinking about the types of systems that you can put in your life, even for just going on a holiday. And I, for one, have always been a bit of a prepper, and I take everything with me. Like you said, you guys had to buy nappies with your cash that you had left, whereas I would have probably gone with a month's supply worth of nappies if I still had kids in nappies. But you know what I mean. Everyone's different with their type of prepping. But I certainly think it'll make people think a little bit more when they do go on holidays about what possibly could happen if I went on holidays. And I think one of the biggest things, besides your safety and everything, is what if we lost all communications? Would I have cash? Would I have this? Would I have that? Could I get home?
And the answer to that is no. You can't get access to cash. Although I do not know how I managed to phone the bank. All the comms are down. The call went through to the bank. And I said, look, you've sent me a text. Do you have an agent in Turos Heads? And their response was, we're a branchless bank.
Right.
Why are you sending me texts? I've got other things to do, like go and find food. So
there you go.
Yeah, amazing. I've got friends that do carry a certain amount of gold and silver in case of emergency situations. It's not the sort of thing that you put in the bank and it appreciates, and you get interest on it or anything like that. So if you are into gold and silver, as long as you've got somewhere safe to keep it, it can be a good way to have currency if things do go upside down.
Ross, I would have said that's a crazy idea probably about 4 years ago, but I don't think that's such a crazy idea now.
I was in a situation once where I was being evacuated from a building. There was a supposed fire, but it was just a burnt lamb chop apparently. And so we get woken up in the middle of the night with this robotic voice going, please evacuate, please evacuate. And I'm freaking out. I'm pregnant and I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So I just made sure I got dressed and I grabbed my watch, which is the most expensive thing that I owned at the time. I'm
Yep.
like, this watch is worth a fortune. At least if something happens, I can
Yep.
sell it.
You can barter it.
Yes. So I was even preparing in a moment of panic.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing for me to grab now?
Well, you see it in the movies, don't you? It's always the watch people trade for something. You know, the watch
Yeah.
for the bike or the watch for the car.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And the watch
My
left
modern
behind when you
watch-
can't pay for the petrol.
Yeah, my modern watch wouldn't be so good when there's no power because it's a smartwatch. So in about 2-3 days, it'll be out of power. So no one's going to want that. Mm.
See, mine's a kinetic one, so it can even run without battery.
Well, you know,
now that would be worth a fortune.
Yeah.
Might be worthwhile doing a just a discussion for the group about cash and, you know, what happens when power runs out.
Well, yeah, we'll make sure Alistair's on that call because
I think he'll be interested in that one.
he's all about creating a cashless society. He's right into that. So yeah. So I'm like, okay, yeah, who's gonna barter for your mortgage, Alistair? What's the bank gonna take? A few zucchinis to pay for your mortgage?
The banks will be offline. They'll be like, well, interesting.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to end the Facebook Live session for anyone that joined in. Jerry, I think you'll be sharing this recording as well online, which will have the slides. I can see Zen Shah joined, so thanks for joining in.
Oh, he's in. Yeah.
He's in.
Yeah.
You know he's in?
Yes, I know he's in.
Hi, Zen. Jerry says hi. So I will end this session now and we'll catch you next week. I'm not sure who's presenting, but
I am next week.
Jerry will be presenting.
All about sharing your story.
Sharing your story. So look forward to that.
Yep. Excellent.
Awesome.
Okay. Facebook Live has ended. So we could do that. And see how the recording came out. I don't know. I just thought we'd try something different.